Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Hope you're all doing good. I wanted to come on today and talk about Mercury moving into Pisces, where all of this other Pisces energy is sitting, and what we've been talking about for a little while now. And, you know, I have a chart up, as you can see, which I don't always do, but I wanted to show you today how the planets move together and talk a little bit about the combined energies and some of the points that these planets have hit in the last few months as they have been traveling through Capricorn and Aquarius and now moving into Pisces, where Mercury is today. And when we do birth charts, we it's a synthesis of all of the energies together and how they work together and talk together. And so when we look at transits going around the birth chart, of course we look for when the transiting planets hit points in the charts, but wherever they are sitting or transiting, that's in that area of life, it's affecting us that way. And it's sort of a chain of events, how things are sort of playing out as they go. So I wanted to just do a little overview of some of the things that have occurred and could occur with all of this, the planets, moving around like they have been so closely together for a while now. So again, Mercury moving into Pisces from Aquarius today. And Aquarius is where, we might be thinking about doing things very differently, putting plans together. It's a very cerebral sign. Mercury is the mind, and how we think and communicate and perceive things. And in Aquarius, it could be very forward thinking, thinking about things that are going to move us into the future. It could be, very rebellious. It could be sudden communication that, we, even though Aquarius is the logical mind, it is emotionally detached. So maybe we weren't thinking about how we would, do things or say things, what the effect would be emotionally or into, in the long term. Although Aquarius wants us to keep in mind, how we are bringing people together in our immediate circle or in the community, we may not, in that sort of detached cerebral air sign, really think about the broader effects of what we might do and say and how we might be thinking. And, having all of that energy, coming from traveling, having had traveled in Capricorn, where we look at things very practically, and try and see things in a way that will build a stable, solid grounding for us, moving into Aquarius, to try and actualize that in a logical way. Uh, Still possibly not looking at things outside of a transactional type of realization. Maybe we were, depending on where we're at in our life, but there's the risk that we are doing that, getting very excited about creating something solid and stable, especially with the instability and the everything that's unknown to us these days, in terms of Venus, our money, possibly what we value and who and how, who we love or have in our circle, in a relationship, moving with Mars, and having contact with Pluto, where they still do have contact. Pluto that can be very intense and can create change. It can also be very karmic, so bringing things up that we need to deal with. So uh, very intense energy. And then of course, in Capricorn, where all of these folks were not so long ago, uh, we may not have made the transitions as smoothly as we need to settle things in our life. And so a lot of intensity going on right now with Mars and Pluto conjunct, and having had that, when Mars was just coming up towards Pluto, conjuncting Pluto, and then now passing over it, that was right around the time that we had the conflict begin. On the world stage, Mars is the god of war. Rules Aries, and moves quickly. It's action. Mars can be soldiers, and just aggressive and passionate action. If we're talking about things that might be going on in the world, hitting Pluto, which is very powerful. Mars is the secondary ruler of Scorpio. So, well, Scorpio is ruled by Mars and Pluto, and that's just very powerful energy that can actually turn things inside out. I mean, it's very explosive, powerful, and explosive. Some astrologers, you could describe it as, being sort of nuclear. It's just very powerful. So interesting that right around the time Mars was approaching and hitting Pluto is when we had the conflict start. And then, of course, with Venus there affecting, as we know, our resources, the markets, immediately, things like that. So things that we value. Interestingly enough, I always find it fascinating when I see the astrology match things that are going on that we can actually see in the world. And probably even in our personal lives, if we've had, some kind of intense thing going on in a relationship or within our own finances that, is making us feel like, things could combust, or it's just making us feel like we need to take some really aggressive action to resolve it. You know, that energy together, and depending on where it's hitting in our birth chart, can cause some pretty intense experiences. And then, same would be for, dealing with relationship issues as well. We could actually have seen some things sort of fall away, and, not really be sure what is going on. Yes, Mercury, was in Aquarius not long ago, while Venus and Mars was conjunct Pluto, and at the time it was in Aquarius, right about here, was squaring, all of a sudden squared Uranus, right towards the end of February. And with all of the pressure to create something strong and stable in our lives, maybe looking at things very transactionally, there could have been a break, a jumping the gun of sorts, something strange or odd that was announced or that we did, uh, thinking that we were chasing something that was going to realize logically the plans we had been put in place, or maybe an action or a thought, with all good intentions, that we thought was going to move us forward, actually sort of blew something up in our face. That could have happened. Or, if we're on level ground and, things are pretty calm in our lives, it actually was something very innovative and interesting that helped move us forward. So you'll know how that affected you, or if it did at all. It doesn't always have to. These are the universal placements, and where they would hit our charts would determine how significant those things would or would not affect us. But we definitely have some serious review, have had serious review, and potentially intense situations in our personal lives, as well as we've seen play out on the world stage. So, as we have Mercury going into Pisces, like it is today, along with all of this other Pisces energy, which I talked a little bit about over the weekend. I'll review that in a second. But Mercury coming into Pisces to add to uh, the Pisces energy there already with Jupiter, the planet of the higher mind, and what we believe in, our truths, institutions, even of higher learning or religious type uh, groups or things that we're thinking about in our mind around any of those areas. Mercury coming in there could push us towards thinking more along those lines. Mercury in Pisces can be more compassion, it can be heightened intuition. It could give us a higher perception or understanding of what's going on, or it could add to the confusion that we might already be feeling, and not feeling settled with. Again, it just depends on what's going on in your life, but it just adds to more water in Pisces. So more opportunities to elevate things, in a higher, Venusian type of way. So, a higher octave of love, or something that is just spiritually more expansive. And in our minds, it's we can go lots of places. It's like, oh, the places we could go in our minds, but we still may not be 100% sure. So when I talked about Jupiter, the sun conjuncting Jupiter over the weekend, and all the possibilities there, and Jupiter can give us some luck, and can expand things for us. There are always a range of expressions for every energy, and anything in our lives that we can experience. But Jupiter can also be a little bit overzealous and overconfident, and I may have mentioned that. So as that king conjunct the sun, either we saw an enhancement of, maybe our intuition, or we saw, a little bit, we felt like we were sort of swimming or floating around in a little bit more confusion. And we talked about, especially during the full moon, the importance right now of having hope and faith, that even if we can't see exactly what's going on, or that we might be able to feel and sense it if we can get quiet. And Pisces season is really good for that. Now that Mercury is there, to help us, it can help us if we can settle into the comfort and the calmness of it. Maybe heighten our intuition, or if our mind is very active and we're trying to reach resolutions, it could cause more confusion. So whatever's going on in your life, you will know where that falls. But I would say better to, just like I said over the weekend, sit back and sit with it. Now, if you've been working on, all of this, when Mercury's in Aquarius and Capricorn, if you were working on creative pursuits, music and art, and things, your spirituality, having this Mercury go into Pisces, that would be a really good use of all of this Piscean energy. And if you can sit in, likely if you're looking towards some of those things, depending on the reasons why, if we're trying to transition into something more calm because we felt so much intensity in our life, which I know a lot of people are doing, it might be a little bit harder to sort of calm that. But if not, and we have a tendency to really move, and we've been planning on working on creativity and spirituality, and creating music and art and things like that, this is a really good addition to actually help us realize and create that in a deeper way while Mercury is in Pisces. But, we can, it's thinking and talking more creatively in a more Venusian way with more love and compassion is something that I think the universe has intention for us to do. While Jupiter, the wise planet in the sky there that's looking out for us is helping settle things. Have uh, uh, the sun that will become conjunct with the Neptune, and that can shine a light on things that are confusing for us, and give us a little bit more clarity, maybe. Or it could actually, the sun is our vitality. It's our soul. It is what is the core and the center of our being. And Neptune is also endings, and Neptune dissolves things. So we could see some endings this weekend. Depending on where the energy is in our chart, we could see, Neptune is, death. Endings would be death and illness and things like that. And of course, that's one of the more scary expressions of something like this. We could also see, something like that occur on the world stage, a public figure of sorts that we see in a Jupiterian way, somebody who's wise, and, a teacher of sorts, or a religious figure, possibly, or just somebody overall that's larger than life, could be a spiritual type thing. We could also see and realize, a lot of things that are going on, or we may have been exploring, that they were a bit grandiose. We might see groups coming together that are a little bit fanatical in terms of spirituality, keeping yourself grounded. And paying attention and keeping things settled in our mind and in our lives, again, in this Pisces energy, is going to be really important. It's cool in that it opens our minds to things that we may not have considered, to something that may elevate us creatively or spiritually. But discernment is always good, especially in this confusing Pisces energy. uh, we will also then, have this weekend too, Mars and Venus, and they are separating some, and they're going to be coming away from Pluto, which will relieve some of the intensity. Uh, Either if there was an ending there of sorts, maybe some of that intensity started to be relieved, and we start to feel some healing with all this Pisces energy. Or as these planets begin to square Uranus, just like I was talking about when Mercury did a few weeks ago, we could see something suddenly change. Uh, and that could be something that we wanted to see change in terms of, resources, money, or just relationships. Mars being the planet of aggression, we could see something radically change there. We've already seen some things happen on the world stage. Maybe it's a backing off of that with Uranus creating a change, or it could be an intensification of that. Uh, just some examples of how those things might play out personally, on the world stage, possibly. We have seen, with rising gas prices and things like that. Maybe when Uranus squares, that backs off, or something changes suddenly in that area. Interestingly enough, a Neptune, and I'm going to double back there. Neptune rules Pisces, and Neptune also represents chemicals and gases, which is interesting. And when the Sun and Jupiter conjunct this last weekend. We started to see an expansion, right? Jupiter, something, that it just got really big in that energy. We saw gas prices go through the roof, so that's interesting. And so maybe, that would be something that was affecting our resources and our money. And Mars, that would be something, an action that was we could interpret as somewhat aggressive. And maybe when that energy squares Uranus, we see, like I said, maybe it backs off a little bit and maybe it intensifies. Maybe, Mars and Venus, the people, maybe we see some very vocal demonstrations regarding that. We have seen folks, sort of talk about those things and put their opinions and feelings out there. And, I know that I look at it and I'm like, wow, it's just crazy. So, right now in Pisces season, anything's possible. Magic can happen. We can be given some grace. So hopefully, as we see this Pisces energy play out, that the way that we experience it after, dealing with all of this intensity for the last few months, is that we see something expand for us that, gives us some grace, gives us a little bit of luck, a little grace, and, something from the heavens to sort of hang on to. That's what I would hope for all of us. But anyway, so that's an example of how we can look at and track how the planets move and how they connect with other planets and things that have happened, we've seen happen, and how things could materialize for us in our personal lives. So interesting to talk about how the energies synthesize and come together. Everybody hang in there. We set the intentions on the new moon in Pisces, which, dream big, right? Hold hope and have faith. And the full moon is coming up, which will be in Virgo, will give us, a little bit more settling in our mind. And in how we feel about things. Virgo is, more. It's an orderly. We can get things straight in our mind and in our plans, and realize things a little bit, on a little bit more solid ground. Virgo is an earth sign ruled by Mercury, so we should be able to sort out our plans and actually put them into to action in a logical way, which will be a nice break. What else? So, with all this Pisces energy, the things that we talked about that have been happening and could be happening as things came out of Capricorn into Aquarius, and now some moving into Pisces. Today, this Mercury specifically is actually along with Saturn, but I won't talk about Saturn today. Saturn could be causing you a little bit of fear and a little bit of restriction, but I think we're all feeling some of that. It could be more intense depending on where that sits in your chart and what it's hitting. But I want to talk about this trine here to, well, it is actually Lilith, but it's Lilith and the moon, and I won't talk about Lilith. Maybe another time we'll talk about Lilith, which is this girl right here. But the moon is in Gemini today, and Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and when the moon is in Gemini, it does, we want to process our emotions in a logical way. We have the ability to do that a little bit better than when we're in some of the other signs, like maybe Cancer, where it's very watery and emotional, but with all this Pisces energy and having Mercury trining the moon, we might feel a little bit of a break depending on how our charts are set up and how we work with mercurial energy, and how it offsets our emotional makeup. We might be able to we might be feeling a little bit more logical, detaching a little bit from some of that water. It could give us a little glimpse today, and it is almost out of Gemini. It's been there since yesterday, of what has been going on for us that might have been confusing, or that we're trying to sort out during this time. Or if we're experiencing some intense things in our lives, that Gemini moon, which is the emotions, might actually speed our thoughts up, and it could just sort of, cause some static, and just make us feel like we're moving too quickly, that our emotions are moving fast, and we can't sort it out. It could cause some, static, maybe some anxiety. So if that's happening, that is normal, especially if you are maybe, I would say if you are heavy in water in your chart, that would probably be something that might be happening for you with this Gemini moon. But otherwise, it could very well uh, you know bring you into a little bit of a clearer picture right now, for the moment, of what's been going on with all this Pisces energy. So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. If you are interested in taking a look how all of these planets are hitting your personal birth chart and affecting you, get a hold of me at GeminiFire65 at MSN.com. We can take a look at all of this. Also, if you want to look at your birth chart and unpack that and get a better understanding of what all of that means, I would love to read for you. And yeah, that's it. If you have any questions or comments, throw them down below, and I will respond to them. Otherwise, I will see you soon. Yeah, so take care. And may the stars forever be in your favor.